And this one is so interesting. It's about ClimateCamp. ClimateCamp's mission is to accelerate the transition to a zero-carbon company. With their technology, they claim to facilitate, hi guys, an infrastructure that gives easy access to your carbon footprint and the footprint of your suppliers. I'm right. They even claim to benchmark, that's an interesting one, and to give tips and tricks. Hope I'm not exaggerating. Hey guys, my question, are these guys, I mean the generation that will give us the solutions for, I'm so curious about your pitch, guys. Anyway, where are you from?
I'm living near Turnhout, so it was quite easy for me to get here actually.
No.
Yeah.
You came by bike?
No, unfortunately, I took the car.
You took the car? Yeah. It's an electric car. It's an electric car.
As soon as we continue to grow our company, I'm very happy to invest in our own electric car, but for the moment it's still an old one, and we need to do with the funds that we have today.
Okay. Vitali, where are you from?
Well, I had a slightly longer drive from Luxembourg. That's the place that I call home.
Yeah, Luxembourg. You do speak about 28 languages, eh?
Perhaps the count is not accurate, but
right.
Quite a few. Yeah, I have
which ones?
Mixed origins. Yeah, a few Ukrainian, Moldovan descent, but I've lived in various countries over the years.
All right.
In Asia, Singapore, France. So
all right. So you're a guy to take the ClimateCamp to an international level. That's
Absolutely.
The idea. Guys, you got 10 minutes, and then we have 20 minutes of questions. I wish you all the luck. Here we go.
It's surely our responsibility to do everything within our powers to create a planet that provides a home not just for us, but for all life on Earth. David Attenborough. Hi, my name is Stan, co-founder and CEO of ClimateCamp, together here on stage with Vitali, a CTO. Thanks for having us today. With ClimateCamp, we want to engage thousands of your suppliers on their emissions. According to the World Economic Forum, around 80% of the global emissions originate from the supply chain. And this is a shocker, 7 out of 10, based upon the McKinsey study, of procurement directors actually have no clue, no visibility or insights in these emissions in their own supply chains. One example, it becomes a compliance risk. Ahold Delhaize, very familiar group. Ahold Delhaize here also in the Netherlands. They have been sued by climate activists to do actually more for their supply chain emissions. And that's why they are now forced to engage with more than 200 suppliers to better understand the carbon footprint of their products. Let's just paint a picture. Lisa, a sustainability analyst working for the world's largest brewery, she wants to map out the emissions in her supply chain. And she starts calling, emailing her suppliers to gather information, but actually it's not moving forward very well. On the other side, Dave. Dave is a supplier of Lisa. Dave is the packaging supplier towards the brewery, and he has been bombarded with requests from not only Lisa, but other suppliers as well that want to understand, for instance, the packaging footprint of the products of Dave. And actually, they have today no means to be able to collaborate together. And Lisa, she has 3 equally bad options today. Either she can work with benchmark databases that not fully reflect the reality and, by the way, do not engage or stimulate the suppliers. Second, she can work with Excel sheets that she sends out to her suppliers, or she can ask the IT department to further extend the company's supplier portal to gather this information. But it's still very time-consuming, and also there are track and trace solutions based upon blockchain that are still in its infancy today.
At the ClimateCamp, we're actually introducing a new approach to tackle it. We flip everything upside up. Instead of having everyone sort of work in their silos and do the assessment of their own emissions in isolation, we actually put all the supply chain network front and center. And actually, this is what we power with what we call a carbon or an open carbon infrastructure. With this, if you take back Lisa's case, she can easily sign up with her work email in minutes on the platform, and from there invite Dave as one of her key suppliers. then Dave can easily accept, similarly in minutes, this invitation, and in a matter of clicks, connect his own data and select essentially what he wants to share and with whom. And then the rest, ClimateCamp takes care of it. At ClimateCamp, we actually built modules so that would allow Dave to connect his own carbon accounting platform. And we, this way, simplify or avoid manual entry, accelerate the speed of adding this information and sharing it, and as well increasing the reliability of this information. If you look at the market, well, first of all, one category of competition in this space is what we've seen emerging over the past months is a crowded sort of space of these carbon accounting platforms. What do we do at ClimateCamp? We actually convert them in partners. So that way they're not anymore our competitors. The other category is these rating agencies or companies that rely heavily on questionnaires and collecting them. The other category, which relates more to the specialized product environmental footprint, they work with benchmarks and average data with all the problems that come with it. And then more the track and trace, blockchain type technologies are still in their infancy, so we're from it. There are a few things that we do uniquely. So first of all, having this collection of connectors, so being open so that Dave can bring his climate account platform and that of his suppliers. We are putting forward this open technology infrastructure platform. So there, the interoperability is the key ingredient to win this in this market. And then the super easy and fast onboarding, which is key then into the adoption or at least starting the journey for organizations. ClimateCamp will change the way the world will engage with supply chain emissions. We are Stripe for emissions. So we connect suppliers with manufacturers to their customers. This will allow billions of tons of CO2 data to flow throughout the platform, and this will then benefit jointly to manufacturers, to suppliers, to customers, and then giving near real-time insights into the emissions and then in all and transparency in this information.
So how will we now make money? For Lisa and Dave, we have both very transparent pricing, where Lisa can start to engage with her suppliers as of $249 on a monthly basis, SaaS-based pricing, and ranging up depending on the number of suppliers, but also users that customers that she can invite on the platform. On the other side, Dave can start to share his information for free with Lisa, being a supplier. Once that Dave wants to integrate and automate the data, thanks to our carbon accounting connections, he will also start to pay the $249 per month. These price points have been validated with a dozen of clients already today. So now, our go-to-market strategy, focused and scalable. We focus first on breweries in Flanders, small, medium-sized breweries, where we actually do a guerrilla type of marketing campaign powered by the brand name duurzaambrouwen.be. We visit the breweries, we have a nice conversation with the owners, they give us a tour around the factory, and they are very quick to convert, and they, for us, are kickstarting the process, because in a second step, they invite their suppliers on the platforms, malting companies, packaging companies, etc., which kickstarts for us the network effect. Which also is then powered by a more digital self-service onboarding to drive the scale. And third, what's for us important as well is the enterprise market into the overall food and beverages sector, together with the existing parts that you see here, and we would love to add Delaware as well, working together in terms of go-to-market. The market opportunity, we start very small with our Belgium-based breweries, 1.5 million market opportunity based upon our average price point of 650 euros per user per month. We scale that in a first step to the suppliers of these breweries in the Benelux France region, going to already a bigger market. And if we go to the food and beverages overall industry in Europe, we come to a 300 million market opportunity at our current price points. Now, for us, it's scalable also towards the manufacturing industry for a 1.4 billion market opportunity in total. Now, our growth engine is fueled by a viral acquisition strategy by design. Let me explain. We are working with these breweries in the first step, and they invite other suppliers on the platform that become as well inbound customers for us that we need to continue to convert and both kickstart, let's say, the network effect further. From our financial projections perspective, we already signed up 4 breweries in 6 weeks of campaigning with Duurzaam Brouwen. We target 30K in MRR by the end of this year, by the next 12 months. And we target to have from 4 signups today up to 440 signups thanks to the aggressive acquisition strategy to an MRR of plus 400K in 36 months.
So we have the team to execute this, right? So we see the 3 of the founders that are running it with Laurent sort of running our commercial sales force. And he brings the experience as a product owner from Nextport, which is a data sharing platform company in the port of Antwerpen. Stijn brings his years of experience working with enterprise organizations in consulting and the data analytics space. And myself, I've been building software as a service platforms for the last years with the Fortune 500 companies and running global engineering teams. So where we are today, so we have the 4 sign-up customers, and this week we're actually going live with them. Next key milestone for us will be the release in August of our supplier invitation and onboarding module. In parallel with that, we've been co-developing a prototype with ABI InBev, and we've applied to the acceleration program, and that's for us to come next. And today we're closing essentially a founding round, our seed round of 350K euros. That follows already last year's friends and family round, and we are 2/3 already through it in due diligence. And this, what we're going to use with it, so obviously accelerate our network effect, so both on the development, go-to-market strategies, and we look also with today's exercise to actually jointly expand into other food and beverages industries. And well, don't wait. We encourage all of you to join also on our mission to democratize and move and pivot to the zero carbon economy. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, that was a good one. That was a good. Yes, of course. Come a bit closer, guys, because this is decision time. Yeah. Voting first online. Please go to your mobile phones. Now we do the votings. We have the 2 questions. Okay. Also the interactive people, the virtual people. Yeah, that's what they're doing. And please go for the first questions. Yes, in the jury. There we go.
Thank you, guys. Very good overview. Very good presentation. Michel, you're the closest. I'll start with you. I can see your.
It's not a good pitch, it's a perfect pitch. So, no, but I mean, it's rare to have a 10-minute pitch so clear. Very well. The fact that you focus on a niche market like this is an excellent choice. I just have one remark. I think your pricing for enterprise should not show that, because if I'm AB InBev, I'm going to give you 2,400 for the rest of my life for an enterprise license, so don't do that. My only question is this. The set of regulations and KPIs and standards is evolving every day. We know that because as investors, we really track that carefully. So how are you going to track and keep track of that and make sure that the suppliers also do the work needed in their systems to make sure that what they report to Lisa is always up to date with those moving targets?
Yeah. There is, first of all, luckily, we are blessed with actually behind the scenes one standard which is called the greenhouse gas protocol. It has been around for years and years in terms of how you calculate your emissions for your own operations and how you calculate it for this famous supply chain emissions. So the way you calculate has been standardized. Now, what you need to report out of that, there is still lots of discussions going on. We want to focus on connecting the dots. And for sure, when we connect with the Microsoft Sustainability Cloud or an SAP Cloud for Sustainable Enterprises, they as well have built-in reporting capabilities that our clients can then rely on. So we make sure that we connect the dots, and they can then further take it themselves. Vitaly, perhaps you have.
Yeah, just perhaps a small parenthesis to complement that more on the technical side. So there is the exhaustivity of how much is being captured, right, of the suppliers, and that will be increasingly broader and more mandatory with the same GHG protocol and some of the standards that are upcoming. And second is then even this greenhouse gas protocol allows for some variability, and there is a notion of granularity or sort of a scoring factor on the data, so you can have even that also making transparent how granular and how precise is your calculation. So it gives some flexibility also for suppliers to catch up.
Okay. Wouter first, and Joël.
Thank you. Pretty interesting story, guys. So congrats on that. Also really like the concept. I had two questions on the data side. So one is, if I understood correctly, you effectively have your suppliers sharing data with their buyers, right? Doesn't this come with any sensitivity? Are suppliers willing to share data? That's my first question. And then the other question is, I think it's great to tap into the existing software solutions already used by suppliers to source the data, but this ultimately needs to be translated into carbon emission, right? So how do you go from data you can find in the existing software systems used by suppliers to carbon emission by suppliers?
Yeah. So we knew the question would pop up in terms of why would suppliers share the data? It's a question that we have again and again. First of all, we would like to give a couple of levels of granularity at which the suppliers can share the data. For instance, they can first start sharing at a certain aggregated level only with Lisa, going to a more detailed level, and then afterwards opening it up, sharing it with all their customers. And we know as well that there is quite some incentives why suppliers would need to share it. Don't underestimate the pressure from outside, from the boards, from the regulatory authorities, as well as from banks as well, to start sharing this data. It's enormous. Now, we do appreciate as well that from a confidentiality perspective, we need to take that into account. And we are very conscious about it. We don't have fully the answer yet, but we are playing around with certain aggregations and anonymizations to be able to convince better the supplier to share the data. And then from a technology perspective, Vitaly, I think what could be interesting is to show this diagram to paint a picture a bit on what kind of data is exactly shared from Dave and the supplier.
And there are two categories, right? So we focus on this open carbon infrastructure, as we call it, as really the backbone or the core of it. And there's two scenarios, right? The customer, I'll say the first brewers that sign up, they will use our platform to do the calculation. So they'll bring their production data, the electricity consumption, all the things that they can get out of their systems. And by applying this GHG protocol, that's essentially the recipe to convert that data into the carbon emissions equivalent. And that's what can be then shared with customers and with partners. The other scenario is that if the supplier or others already have a solution in place. So we on purpose put one example, but there are, as I mentioned also, this has become a crowded space for actually calculating or for doing this multiplication because it's quite standard. So these connectors, right, to bring in already the emissions, right, into the platform or share only this level of information. And that's the whole principle, right, to be able to transit and share this data amongst the participants.
Joël. Thank you.
Thank you. Joël, you had a question?
Yeah, my question is around go-to-market. You start with smaller breweries, and then I see that growing quite fast in the revenues of the future. It's inbound sales, I think it was in the graph.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did you validate that? Because I can also imagine that a small brewery has little influence with larger suppliers.
Yeah.
That maybe if you have one large brewery, that would have a bigger of a multiply effect.
Yeah.
Did you validate that? Or-
I'm sure I will show you once I get to the right slide. There is a couple of parameters that are assumptions in our model and a couple that we have already tested. Yeah? First of all, let's look at this. It's the invitation ratio, because this is a key driver for the multiplicator effect, which means how many suppliers does on average one customer, brewery by extent, and food and beverages company invites. This is for us an assumption today. So this is not yet proven. That's one key. We obviously had multiple discussions to check how many suppliers. They typically have 10 to 15 suppliers, but not all of them will be invited by the brewery. That's one important parameter. The second important parameter is what's your conversion ratio when the supplier receives the email to start indeed sharing this. Yeah? Again, this is for us an assumption where we are taking around 25% because you know that these are people that you know that you have a supplier-buyer relationship anyway. Yeah? So it's not out of the blue that you receive these invitations. That's why you can use these as assumptions. What we already confirmed in our preliminary go-to-market strategy with our campaign today, Duurzaam Brouwen, outbound conversion ratio, in reality, it's more than 50%, but we've modeled it for right now for 25% because thanks to our, let's say, guerrilla style of marketing campaign, this picks up quite quickly. However, what we need to do very quickly, and we discussed it even while we were in the car driving here, we need to quite quickly start testing these values that we put into our model. In August, we will go live with the supplier invitation module, and then we really need to focus on the data-driven approach to monitor carefully these parameters. So, yeah, that's our set of assumptions that are set our knowns, and that's the one that we've put in the model.
All right. Sander, you had a question?
Yeah, just a caveat. I'm an investor in EcoChain that you just mentioned as a competitor, so I'll try not to solve all my problems in a discussion.
In who? Sorry?
In EcoChain.
Yeah.
So I know of some of the problems that we've been facing for the last 7 years in trying to sell a very similar solution with a very different approach. I don't think it's a direct competitor at all, but maybe a good partner. So I'll introduce you to the team. I think it'll be an interesting and valuable discussion. One of the things we found is a supply chain is very long, or it can be very long, and it's a very dynamic situation. So there's no value 13 for packaging. It's value 13 day one, it's value 11 day two, because they're buying their stuff from different vendors. So it's very difficult to get a consistent number. You need to push it to your supplier, but they, to get a valid number, either need to use a database or push it to their suppliers, and the chain goes on and on. So to get a really valuable result, we found it's very difficult to get a reliable and constant valuable result. How are you planning to tackle this in long supply chains?
I can give a first try, and then Vitaly, you can complement. We are aware. Yeah? So Laurent as well, our co-founder, has been working in supply chain in the port of Antwerp, knowing the ins and outs. We believe that it's better to try to capture the real value rather than rely on assumptions. One example, having a call with Spadel, the water bottle company, yesterday, and what they said is, if you rely on assumptions versus if you really go to get to understand the bottle of water, what's the type of plastics that's really behind it. If you go after the value, it can be up to 50% of difference versus. So there is value in trying to get it. We have not solved the problem of this dynamism, right? Because lots of data is also stored in SAP in terms of what the type of purchase order you do. And that depends, based upon that, there is a product that is then ordered, and the product composition might change over time, resulting in different variations. We don't solve for that problem today. So happy to continue to think, also together with EcoChain, by the way, because we love what they do.
And to complement, right, on the fact why we sort of push for this more partnership than direct competitor. The problem is, well, the problem needs to be solved, right? That's a bit the constant, right? There is a market opportunity, but then we want also to bring our sort of angle of activism to it, right? To encourage or have also all the participants or users and suppliers, manufacturers also sort of influence or motivate their suppliers to share and look into these problems, right? So by raising implicitly the assumptions. And then for the actual calculation, for solving for complex, in, let's say, supply chains in the short term, it will be a matter of choosing the big rocks, right? First, identifying the big sources to see where we want to have the highest granularity of data and what can still be with assumptions. So it will be a balancing act carefully to be managed.
Walter, you had another question?
Yeah, maybe building on what Sander was mentioning as well. Like, I could imagine from a client perspective, it's ultimately important to get a sense of completeness and accuracy of your solution, right? So how do you go about this?
So we had conversations with a packaging company, and the going-in position is to start from your expenses, your spend per supplier, so that you have already a good view. You extract that from accounting. And by the way, for instance, companies like Normative, based in Sweden, they are focused on greenhouse gas accounting platform. That's how they address Scope 3. So they look at the spends per supplier, rank them, and what you then do, that's the first step. What you then do is you look at, that's the big rocks. You take the top 10, top 20, and those you're going to hook up into the platform. You're going to invite, because then you want to increase your accuracy for those 20 for which you've based first an initial assumption based upon euros, converting the euros to certain emission factors, but you want to be much more accurate. So you're going to invite those top 20 to the platform to provide real information.
And an additional dimension to it is also the choice or the conscious choice to specialize in a segment, right? So we can sort of have a template or a view, okay, what complete means, right? What's the golden standard? And then we can benchmark coming back to the word that we used at the beginning, right? Where we are, what's missing maybe, what granularity we need to increase to have a complete picture, and then move to additional segments.
I like that focus a lot. I mean, it's super complex, right? And basically trying to do this across different supply chains in different industries is like boiling the ocean, which I think you shouldn't be doing as an early stage startup. So a great approach there.
Yeah, we've gone through some other waters, right? It's not that from day one we come up with, so there's been quite some iterations along the way.
Thank you.
We have time for one more question. Yes, Eileen?
Me?
Yeah, you.
Okay. You use an open platform, and I hear a lot of connectors, so also a lot of integration. How are you going to maintain it? Also elaborating on the other questions, that it is complex and a lot of changes involved in supply chain as well. And is it included in the pricing?
Yeah, for the pricing I can already answer. As of the second pricing tier, 250 euros, you have the connectors included. Okay. But I want to show you, and perhaps Vitaly, you can in the meantime do the voiceover.
Yes. So, well first, we'll prioritize what we develop upfront, right, and provide natively on the platform. And that's obviously, you see familiar logos on the screen, right? That's sort of a must first step that we'll develop or co-develop with system integrator partners. For other systems, we'll need to choose and prioritize what we build right up front and what we build on request, pretty much, as custom implementation projects or connectors. So that way we balance amongst those three scenarios, what we pre-build natively, what we build on request, and when we prioritize, and as a product roadmap evolves, we prioritize.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, then I'm so curious on this. Please move a bit to the side, to your colleague. I'm so curious on the results of the audience and the streaming audience. So could we have some results, please, of the answers, the polling? Oh, this is something different, huh? Guys, the more it moves to the right, the better the news.
We will drink
All
a beer.
right? This is a good one. This is a good one. So how much you believe in the entrepreneurial team of the ClimateCamp? So this is people. This is people, and which is very important. Huh? All right. Hey, guys. Great, huh? Now, go for the very important question.
Yeah, let me ask it again. Who of you are interested in pursuing further discussions with this team? 1, 2, 3, 4.
4 hands. 4 hands. Good. Please remember the hands. That's an important one. Hey, Climate Campers, thanks very much. Good luck.
Bye-bye. Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.